So this week we watched Child's Play, and honestly, whilst I was watching this movie, all I was thinking, at least for the first like 45 minutes, was Celia's gonna hate this. That's all I was thinking, and I was just thinking, oh no, I hope this isn't too painful for her.
I hope she has an enjoyable experience in the end. Well, you know me so well. I mean, I was very excited to review this because I feel like it's one of those films that I know a lot about just in culture, but I don't really know what it's about. Like, I don't know what the film was about. I don't know how Chucky was born. I don't know, what happens. So it was actually really fun. And I'm going to give a big spoiler. You're wrong for the first time ever.
Oh dear.
For the first time ever, pretty much, I think I enjoyed a ridiculous horror comedy.
Interesting.
Like crazy experience. So
Wow.
I mean, your intuitions are usually right, but this time I think I just
wrong.
like suspended my disbelief, and I'm trying to do that a bit more. Like, I'm just trying to enjoy it for what it is, not thinking that every film has to be complex and underwritten with like metaphor or whatever. I just tried to go in with this being like, it's a Chucky film, it's not going to be that deep, and it wasn't that deep. So it worked.
No, it's weird because I was a kid when this movie was still fairly recent. So I remember when I was in like primary school, so I must have been in like between like year 1 and year 4, like Chucky was still a part of the pop culture, like it was still new. So
wow, so you're almost the same, you're basically the same age as the kid. What was his name? Or was he a bit younger?
No, I think he was a bit older.
Oh.
But so Chucky was still a part of the language, the pop culture language, where they'd be like, "Oh, Chucky, like."
No way.
Yeah, and but I didn't, I didn't immediately put together that Child's Play and Chucky were referencing the same movie. I always thought, I think a lot of people wouldn't even know Chucky was from Child's Play. They probably think of Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky.
Yeah.
So for years I'd kind of just put this movie off, but it was kind of nice to finally watch it and see what the deal was and see the kind of origin movie of this character, because I think Chucky as a character has evolved so much in the last like 30 years. And he's bigger than this movie now. Like this movie, Child's Play, seems very quaint compared to the whole legacy of Chucky, if that makes sense. And it's interesting to see what the origin story was.
I agree. I mean, I thought while I was watching it at the beginning, it would be really nostalgic for a kid growing up in 80s America to watch this back and be like, oh my God, because it was so full of like childhood nostalgia of different games, different toys, the clothing and everything. I think this would have been really cool to be one of those people to watch it back and say, this was my childhood. Did you get any of that from this, or was it too American?
No, I could kind of see where you're coming from. Like, I mean, that period of time especially, I mean, toys have always been popular, but there was something about toys during the mid 80s right through to about the mid 90s, like, or maybe it's just that's the stuff I was interested in back then. But I just feel like the quality of toys was so different. I'd say it's better. I mean, this was the era that was like a 10-year period where we had stuff like Master of the Universe, Ninja Turtles, Transformers, WWF wrestling figures. And also during that time, something that doesn't really happen anymore is whenever they were like adult action movies, like The Terminator or Aliens, they, RoboCop, these were violent adult action movies. Kids' toys were made for those movies. And I had them myself. Like, you would never get away with that now. I mean, not only was that widely available in America, it was here as well. Like, you'd see like toys of Arnold Schwarzenegger or RoboCop or whatever. And I think that toy consumerism was just on a different scale back then. It's something that just does not exist now. And so I can kind of see how Chucky would have. I suppose it would have just been a matter of time until they decided to make a horror movie based on toys. And
like you say, it feels like the right time. If it was such a toy-based society of children who it all sells out when a new toy comes out, and it's very much like bright colors, lots of plastic, you know, a lot for kind of cheap materials that you can get.
Yeah, and a lot of those cartoons that were on TV for kids were toys first, and they just built the cartoons around them.
Right.
And the cartoons were essentially just giant, like 20-minute, half an hour ads for the toys.
Yeah, which is very clever. Like, it does make sense. And you see that in this as well at the beginning, where, you know, Andy really, really wants a Chucky doll because he sees the advert, he's wearing the clothes. Like, there's so much marketing that goes into these toys that his mum has to get him one. Like, he won't be happy if she doesn't. But even when I was a kid, I do remember that feeling of like the overwhelming need to have something, because everybody's got it, everybody's talking about it, you're left out if you don't have it.
Which toys was it for you when you were younger?
I mean, for me, it was more like Lego sets. I really remember.
Really?
Yeah, I really remember. When I was at school, all the girls had this Aladdin Lego set. And
really?
they were talking about it, and they were like sharing it between people, and I felt so left out. And I remember going home to my mum and, you know, kind of having to pitch to her why I really needed this Lego, because obviously what she would say is, you've got so much Lego, just build the Aladdin set out of what you have. It's like, it's not the same, Mum, it's not the same colors, it's not the same shapes, it's not got the little figures and the little lamp that goes with it. And I did get it in the end, and I remember being so happy about it.
Did you
very
keep
glad.
it?
I mean, it's probably somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I mean, I'm just glad it didn't come to life and try and kill me. That's what I'm saying. But I did read that. I mean, I guess people would have already known this at the time, but obviously Chucky was like made in the likeness of the My Buddy toys, which were real toys at the time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's when you look at the photos, they're very similar. They were called My Buddy, and they had like they were in overalls, and they looked very similar. And apparently, a piece of trivia was that toy line never recovered after this film.
I'm not surprised. Not surprised.
It could have gone one of either way, I suppose. It could have like catapulted them, but kids weren't watching this film, I don't think. So I don't think it was
hopefully some smart person bought up a bunch of first editions of those and hung on to them, and then resold them 30 years later at premium.
Oh my god, imagine if one of them had Chucky as its name, just as a coincidence. You know, one of them, My Buddy toys, was called Chucky.
Yeah,
they would have got a lot for that. So I think it is nostalgic for a time where toys were everything. Like, I know I don't want to sound like I'm a really old fart, but I do think kids today do have the option of having games on their phone or their iPad where they can download it, and it's like, it's still for kids, it's still fun, and you know, everybody's got one, but it's all being downloaded onto your iPad, and it's not like a physical toy that you're playing with. And obviously I don't have children, I'm not around children, and I'm sure everybody who does has their house full of toys. But there's also this other element that wasn't around at that time, which is the digital version of toys. And so I do think that this was made at the right time for this. But it is, I mean, we can go into it later, but it's really interesting, the difference between Megan and Chucky because of the time period in which it's set. So like, Megan is a very technologically advanced doll, whereas Chucky is like the bare bones doll that gets like voodoo cast on him and becomes bad. Like, they're so of their era in what toys are. And I think it's just a really interesting difference between the two. Yeah.
Touching upon what you mentioned about, you know, like kids these days have like, you know, they've got that digital option, whereas we didn't when we were kids. And so the other week when my niece and nephew came over, I kind of assigned them some jobs to do around the house because I couldn't be bothered to do them. So I just said, look, if you do these bits, I'll pay you. I'll literally pay you. So one was like filling up buckets of pebbles and stones, and for every bucket they filled, I paid them. And but I wasn't going to give them the money. Their mum was like, "Don't give them the money, but just take them to the toy shop and buy them something." You know, and then keeping in according to the budget that they had. And that was really interesting because both my niece and nephew, so they were excited to go to the toy shop, but then they were like fantasizing about what they were going to buy, and you know, and then something that came up that I just really didn't expect, and I felt like it kind of shocked me a little bit, but they were talking about buying so they play these video games. So they play Fortnite and they
Mhm.
also play something called Roblox.
Yes. Yeah.
And I've not played either of them, but they wanted to buy bucks for both of them, so like an in-game currency, so they could
Mm.
buy like outfits for their
Skins and
character.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like skins for the characters. And I remember having a long conversation with both of them together. Like, I just couldn't. I mean, to them, it was just that's just their reality. They're like, yeah, we want to get
Yeah.
some cool skins, so so we can be cooler than our friends and whatnot. And I was like trying to explain to them, like, one day these games will shut down, and then you'll have nothing to show for it. Like, would you not?
Yeah.
Would you rather not have something you can like touch with your hands?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, but it's cool. And then the conversation, like they just wouldn't understand that one day these things will shut down. And then
Yeah.
and yeah, it was just maybe I'm just really out of date now and just
I think it's just different
not with the times.
generations.
Yeah.
Like their generation will then be surprised about the things that their kids' generation are now using as toys. When we go into like VR and things like that, they'll be like, why are
Oh
you
gosh.
paying for something that you can never use or like even download, or it's just gonna keep going, I think. But
It's
like the
shocking,
difference
yeah.
between, yeah, it's a really good example of the difference between like your childhood, my childhood, and now their childhood.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's just, it changes. And I think that's probably why I enjoyed Chucky, because it felt like a simpler time of like
Yeah.
everything about it is just like simpler. And yeah, it was just a bit of a fun film, I think.
Would you buy your kid a toy? So your kid's desperate for a toy. Would you buy it from a homeless person?
No. And the reason why is not because I think it's going to be possessed by a sociopath. It's probably because I just don't know what's that toy has been through. I don't know what's, where did they find it? What have they done with it? Like, I don't know. It's just sketchy. And I also don't think I don't know if it's too strict to think that I wouldn't let my children be so caught up on a toy that I would have to get it from a homeless person. Or like, yeah, because he was super dodgy in this film.
Yeah.
And why? And also, I mean, at the beginning of this film, when they initially showed how Chucky became Chucky, where this killer, voodooed himself into the doll, my first question was, how the hell is a child going to get his hands on this doll? Because it's covered in blood, it's in the crime scene, it should be, evidence. And so I wrote down, I was like, this is ridiculous. How are they ever gonna? And then it comes about like, it basically wraps it up and it's like, yeah, this person obviously stole it from the crime scene or they found it somewhere and then they sell it on dodgily. And I was like, okay, I respect this film for like continuity.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, like even if it was from a crime scene, if the police in this movie's universe are anything to go by, I think anyone could have just walked in that toy shop and picked it up, even if it was a crime, even if it was covered in police officers, anyone could literally have walked in and picked it up because that bit where the lady's friend, the mother's friend, is killed at the house, and her house is like swarming with police officers. She literally just barges straight through. No one questions her, and
she gets from downstairs up all those flights of stairs or the lift or however she gets up to the top flat. She gets into her apartment and then they're like, who are you? What are you doing? It's like, I've just passed like 50 of your colleagues. Like, did nobody else think to stop me? That scene, I actually laughed out loud when the babysitter got thrown out the window. Because like the amount of force it would have taken to throw someone out of a window. And it's like she's standing near a window and then Chucky runs up to her and with a tiny like toy hammer or just a tiny hammer, he like hits her so lightly because he's so small, like he can't generate that much force, and she goes flying out that window.
That window shatters immediately as well.
Straight away, and she's not even standing like up against the window, she's actually quite far away from the window, so she has to almost like run backwards to like smash herself out of it. It made me laugh.
I mean, there's so many moments in the movie where Chucky's like jumping on someone or grabbing someone, and you do wonder, like, I just chalk it down to like, all right, he's a supernatural doll, maybe he just has has a stupid amount of strength in this movie.
But
So.
still, like, physics wise, his head is far bigger than his arms. So if you held him by his hair, what's he going to do? Because he can't, his arms aren't long enough to touch your hand. So he's just going to be flailing around.
Yeah,
so just
yeah.
you know, I think that's what makes this film so funny, is that it's not a threat. I mean, it shouldn't be a threat. It is in this film because he just bites everyone, which I think is also really funny. But he's not a threat to a real person in a real universe. Like in the Chucky universe, he's the biggest threat ever and he just can't die.
Yeah.
But really, he's a tiny doll that, like I said, if you held him by the hair, he couldn't do anything.
Yeah, but I think everyone just plays it like dead serious and like to make it more believable and stuff.
Which actually to me makes it funnier, because it's like everybody's taking this so seriously, but nobody's like thinking about the options of what they could probably do, which is, I mean, even capturing him, like just get a big bucket or something and just put it over him. He would fit in a bucket. Oh yeah, it made me laugh.
Yeah. How do you feel about the there's that moment when the little kid is like swearing when he's talking about Chucky said Auntie so and so is a bitch or something, she deserved to die or whatever. Like what are your thoughts on, like, in movies getting children of that young kind of age to swear?
It's a really good question, and I thought about it recently because I saw a clip from South Park where, I don't know if you know, like, I can't remember whose sister it is, but there's like a really young character on it, like the Canadian one who's got a really cute voice, and she's one of the crew's daughter, and he would swear into the microphone and then she would swear into the microphone. It's like quite a cute like little of them swearing together. And I was a bit like, I don't know how I feel about it, because she is a child, like she's really, really young, and she's doing something that she's not going to get in trouble for. But also, like, what if she goes into school and starts saying like what she was saying on the thing, she'd probably get in trouble and like not really realize why, because one day it's fine to say and then the next day it's not. It's like there's no consistency there. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
It's a difficult one. It's I think with an adult, you'd like to think that they know the difference between when we're acting and when we're not acting and whatnot. But with a kid, I just feel like it's such a young age where they're still developing and they really have no idea about anything. And it's I don't know. It's a bit unsettling, to be honest. But then again, on the flip side, it could be argued that swear words are just words like any other word. Like, and
maybe they're learning from early on that they're just words, and to know the meaning of them. I mean, we didn't talk about it, but I also thought that on a much greater scale with The Exorcist, like that actress had to do a lot of quite concerning things.
Really crazy stuff.
Even though she's a lot older than Andy is in this film, it just makes you think, like, it's a fine line that you're drawing between like a child's innocence and the characters that they're playing, which are absolutely not innocent for whatever they're playing. So it's a tricky one. I don't know the answer. I mean, it does make a massive impact in films like this when they are like so non-childlike, because it's like, oh my god, he's definitely been persuaded by Chucky to act this way. I mean, it's really interesting that this film and Megan have the same storyline of like a toy whispering in their ear and changing their mind and manipulating them into hating their parents or hating their and lying and doing all these things. I wonder where that comes from. I don't know if you were thinking about that, but like, what is this storyline of like toys being able to manipulate children in this way?
I don't know for certain, to be honest, but I think it might be loads of things, because like kids, when they're growing up, they don't have that autonomy, and they do as they're told from their parents, and maybe it's just that kind of rebellious part of them where they want to, they can be naughty and stuff, but if they blame it on their imaginary friend or a toy, then they don't need to apologize for it. It's I think it's, I don't know, some kind of rebellion or defiance against the parent, maybe. I don't know. I don't know for 100%, to be honest. Yeah, because I think when I was growing up, because I was the elder sibling, I didn't have that luxury of being able to blame it on someone else.
Even
if it was like my little sister's fault, I would probably still have got the blame for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like I think that I was holding a stress ball and it just burst.
Oh, it burst. Oh gosh.
God.
Is it wet?
Yeah.
Oh.
We were talking about this before the podcast started, that I'm squeezing a stress ball. And I said the last thing I want to happen is for it to burst. And
it
just burst. Okay, well, that's fine. I completely forgot what I was going to say, but I do think that kids in horror films do work really well. I mean, I don't even know if I would count this as a horror film, if I'm honest. Like,
it's like a
nothing
thriller.
about it was scary. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine back then it might have been scary because there are some. I mean, it does build up suspense fairly well at certain bits.
Yeah.
I think if you put yourself back in 1988, I think Child's Play may not have been a terrifying movie, but it would have been, in that context, a fairly well-made horror thriller, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe because I'm looking at it at the lens of today where I'm completely disregarding this as a horror film. It's probably actually not fair because it's just because, like, I'm looking at it through the lens of somebody who knows what scary horror can be when you've got the technology behind it. But,
But even by the standards of 1988, the acting is dreadful in this movie.
It is, isn't it? It wasn't just me. Like, it is. It's not great.
No, and the whole thing just feels like it's just a very expensive made-for-TV affair, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, two things I thought they did better than I expected was I thought Andy was really good as his kid, like as the kid.
Yeah,
because he was so young
job.
And he was really cute. He was so
very likable, yeah.
Very likable. And I thought, they cast him really well. And I don't know if this is controversial, but I thought the Chucky doll was way better than I imagined. Like, I was expecting it to be really terrible, but I was like, I can deal with this. Am I crazy for thinking that?
There were some moments with the Chucky doll where there's one bit I remember in the movie where I think Chucky's walking around the side of a bed and then jumps on the bed and then he wants to stab little Danny whilst he's sleeping under the covers, but then it turns out it's a pillow underneath there. Sorry. And I was just so impressed by the whole walking animation by Chucky. Like, it was just, there were moments
why? I'm going to burst your bubble.
Go on.
So it's not all animatronics. It's a mix of animatronics, children, and little people.
Oh, gosh. I was going to say the animation quality seemed so realistic.
Yeah,
I didn't realize there was a person in there.
Yeah. So, every time I read that before I watched it, so I kept noticing when they switch between, because whenever Chucky has his back to the camera, so you can't see his face, like you can see that he's more malleable because it's an actual person. Yeah, like when there's this bit where they throw him to the ground and he like jumps back up again. Like, that's a little person. They only use the children a few times for like the height. But yeah, if you ever see Chucky face on, it's an animatronic. But if he's like moving or like, being thrown around, it's more likely to be. So that was probably why.
Oh, okay. I also thought that, when Chucky goes into his burnt mode after he's been set on fire, it looked quite impressive. I thought that was really good. Scary, yeah. But it's the same thing as Megan, like where she gets destroyed and burnt at the end as well, doesn't she?
Maybe they've just got this thing about like burning toys like that.
I think Megan definitely used.
As in, like, they both survived the initial one and then they're like crawling around being burnt, and like it's basically the same thing.
Yeah. So with both of them, first they get destroyed and then they're fighting in their kind of destroyed form, and then after that they literally get dismantled or dismembered, and then they start fighting in their dismembered form. It's basically Megan, I'm pretty sure, uses Child's Play as a template, and I'm pretty sure Child's Play uses like the first Terminator movie as inspiration. I'm pretty confident. A lot of similarities.
I was very surprised about how similar the Megan story is to Chucky.
Yeah.
Just in the sense of, it's about a child being manipulated by a toy that over time becomes a killer. Like, everything else is different, but the actual plot of these two films is pretty much the same. Yeah. I liked Chucky's character better than Megan's, because like Megan was so AI that, whereas Chucky is an actual person inside a doll, which gives him a little bit more leeway to like be a character, be a full character. Whereas Megan wasn't really. I didn't feel like she was a full character.
No, definitely. And with Chucky, I think they nailed the voice. Like the dude who does the voice of Chucky is just
so good, iconic.
Yeah, and it kind of added the comedy to the movie, I think.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
Yeah, because I think that guy does Chucky's voice in like every subsequent movie as well, I think.
I hope he does, because that feels like it's such a pivotal part of his character, is to sound like that.
Yeah,
I mean, I have no idea how they like have another film after that. Like when it finished, I was like, how's he going to get out of that body and into a different body? Like I don't.
Yeah, I think the sequel picks up like 2 years after where this one left off, and they bring back like the same kid and a few other people and whatnot.
I mean, Chucky must go through like a Toy Story rebirth where somebody picks him up and dusts him off and puts him back together again.
Probably, I don't know. Yeah,
it's the best scene in Toy Story. Do you know what? The funniest scene to me in this, I actually was laughing out loud, was the driving scene. When the detective is in the car and he's driving, and then Chucky tries to kill him. And at no point, again, we're talking about lousy police services in this, at no point did he think maybe I should stop this car. Like, as he just keeps driving. He puts his foot on the pedal while a doll is trying to stab him through the seat. The first thing I would do, hazards on, look around. No, I'm joking. But I would go off onto the side, park, and get out the car.
Yeah.
But he just obviously, as it goes on, I think he forces him to put the gas on. But at the beginning, he is just driving down the street at the same time as doing this. I thought that was hilarious. Like there's a bit where his eyes are covered and he's just still driving. Stop the car.
Yeah, that bit where Chucky's like stabbing the police officer from the bottom of the seat, and the knife's coming up through the bottom of the, and the police officer's literally got his ass like off the seat. Just the whole script was ridiculous. Like the acting is ridiculous, the script is silly, the dialogue is horrific throughout.
It is awful. And there's just the simple storyline of them completely believing that this child from the beginning did all of this. Like they just almost are like, well, yeah, that sorts out. He threw her through the window and he's the one that's like creating all this havoc. I know they don't have to believe that it's a doll, but they don't even consider that something else might be going on. They're just like, well.
Yeah, I don't know. I think when it comes to toys and horror movies, I still think Annabelle is scary. That it's like they just nailed it with Annabelle. And I think one thing I like about Annabelle, where I felt like they kind of might have messed up with Child's Play, is with Annabelle, you don't really know the backstory, and the whole thing's a bit kind of, because you never really see Annabelle like running around or whatever, do you?
I think that's such a good point, because it's all about the fear of the unknown, isn't it? Like our brains make up things that are far scarier than what's on the screen. And I think with Annabelle, which we should do next.
Oh, we haven't done that one yet.
We haven't done it. We could do 3 toy films at once, which are very different.
Yeah.
But I think with Annabelle, like you're right, you don't get to humanize her as a doll because you never get the opportunity to. Whereas, Chucky is humanized as soon as we get to know who he is. He can run, he can talk. And like you say, he gets a backstory, but Annabelle is just such an enigma and is so subtly scary. For some of the scenes, she's just sat there, nothing changes, but there's like an insidious nature to her.
Yeah.
And it's all done through the camera work and the plot and the other characters reacting to her rather than what she does. And that gives that doll the power in that film. Yeah, whereas here, he is the joke because of the way that he is portrayed. And I think that's all right, but it's definitely not scary.
Nah, there's a Child's Play remake that came out in like 2019.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think Aubrey Plaza plays the mother in there.
Oh, no way.
And I bet that one will be good. I've not seen it, but I can just imagine how, the Candyman remake, how it kind of relates to the original Candyman. I wonder if that kind of huge leap in quality also applies to the new Child's Play movie. Because they got like Aubrey Plaza in there, and Mark Hamill plays Chucky in there.
Wow.
And yeah, so that could be quite interesting because
I
he's a
mean,
great voice actor.
yeah, I guess it could go either way, couldn't it? Because part of the attraction of this Chucky is because it's from the 80s and it's quite bad, and they'd have to play it really well, I think, for a remake to either make it really scary or make it really ridiculous. But like if you
Yeah.
toe the line in between, it's like, well, we loved it because it was nostalgic. What else are you bringing to the table by remaking it? So I hope it does do
Hmm.
that, like does one or the other.
Yeah. Yeah. What are your kind of closing thoughts on this movie?
Well, I mean, I think you said it earlier where you were like, the acting's not great. The plot doesn't really make much sense. But I really did just find this film quite fun. Like I didn't take it too seriously. I tried to not be myself when I'm watching these films and just take it as it comes. And I ended up enjoying it much more than I thought I would.
Right.
We usually rank things on scariness. I didn't do that in this film because I was just like, I'm just gonna see what it's like. And I do think that this film set the tone for different types of horror films. Like you can branch out from ghosts and possessions and the things that we're used to, and you can use different means of making horror films, and that continued afterwards in so many different ways. You have inanimate objects that become possessed, you have kind of the travel between time, you have like all these different ways of creating horror, but it pushes the boat out to try something new. And I would have loved to be a fly on the wall for the first audience who watched this
Yeah.
and saw this as like, and see their reactions to it, because I just think I am so jaded at this point at all the
Yeah.
film, at all the things that we watch, and being from a different era than this film was made for. I don't think I see it in the same light as how they would in the 80s. So, I think I was pleasantly surprised by this. But would I recommend this as a horror film? Probably not. I'd recommend it as if you like 80s films, it's definitely on the roster, rather than if you like horror films, well, you've got to watch Chucky.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's quite interesting how normally with these kind of movies, it's usually we've had a bit of a role reversal because normally with these kind of silly movies, I'm a bit more kind of receptive to them, and
Yeah.
and you're normally a bit closed off to them. But yeah, we've had a total role reversal where there's a part of me that just couldn't wait for it to be finished.
Yeah, that's
Just
fair
couldn't
enough.
wait for it to be over. It's like, and I mean, overall, I think it's like a C grade horror movie or a C grade thriller from the 80s. It's
Yeah.
got like it just reeks of made for TV or
Mm.
straight to video. Nothing about it felt particularly cinematic. I felt
Yeah.
like the script just needed like maybe a couple of more rewrites, and
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, it had a few good ideas. I think the whole toy idea. I don't know if there's a movie earlier than this which deals with the whole toy come to life and becomes a murderer kind of concept.
That's very niche, but like a concept. But yeah.
Yeah, and I do think there's more comedy value than actual horror value in this movie.
Mm.
And as I said, like the acting, the script, the directing, just everything was pretty dreadful. And but I did think the burnt Chucky at the end was pretty gruesome. I didn't see that coming at all. I didn't expect that. I thought that looked pretty cool. But all in all, I just kind of was looking forward to it being over. But coming out of this, I'm probably more excited to watch the 2019 remake now.